Hi, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about brown rot control, how to control brown rot in your peaches and in your plum trees, apricot trees, because they're probably the biggest danger to losing a crop of anything else that we have. I know you got the borers, you got some scale and other things, but the brown rot, I mean, if you get worms in the peaches, you can still salvage some of the peaches. You get brown rot, you're done. This year was a really bad year for me on brown rot. I wasn't able to spray. Plus we had rain after rain after rain, which causes brown rot to be even worse. And what I've got now is a lot of mummified fruits. And these are on the tree. And if you look real close, you see these little spores here. And those spores can be kicking out whenever you get rain and stuff. So you need to go, I'm gonna go in here today. I'm gonna pick all these mummified fruits off on the tree so they won't put out spores for next year. Now next year I'm going to have a big pressure on it. If you've had bad pressure on it before, you're probably going to need to put fungicide out. And one thing you have to be careful on the fungicide, if you can get one that works good, and I'll put it in the comments below what I use. But one thing to be careful of it on is if you're using tap water and you mix that stuff up and then you get around, and it may take you an hour or so to spray everything, it might have already deactivated because the alkalinity in the water will deactivate the fungicide. Now once it dries, it's not a problem. But one thing you can do is you can add vinegar or some type of battery acid or something of that nature, just to lower that pH down to 5.5 to 6 on the pH scale. That way your chemical will be able to be applied to the tree and do some good. The other thing to remember on your fungicide, it has to be done early, because once that brown rot gets on that fruit, your fruit may look great, it may look good, but right before it ripens, about a week or two before it ripens, you're gonna get a spot on it, and it's got spots that's gonna cover the whole peach, and it's gonna do this. Or sometimes you'll even do it, you'll pick them early, lay it in the house, and then they'll still rot on you. And that happened to me also. I picked some early, put it in the house, and they last a day or two. So that is a big problem. Let's go over here on this tree, and it was even worse. And this is a nectarine tree, and they're all over everywhere. So I've got to pick all these off, or else it's just going to be a haven. I'm going to lose them all again next year if I don't. And I should have done this way earlier, but life happened. I just hadn't had a chance to. I do got these little buckets. I put all of them in these buckets. Then I will take them and I'll throw them in the trash and haul them off to get rid of them. Anyway, that's my little tip on how to control brown rot in your orchard. Thanks for watching. Okay, for the second segment, here's what I picked on those two trees, all the different mummified fruits. And like I say, I probably lost that many on the ground, so I'm gonna have a very strong presence of fungus out there. So I'm gonna have to do something to try to control that. And first thing I'm gonna talk to you about, when you're spraying any type of fungicide, insecticide, that type of stuff, most of these things are acids. Most of your tap water is alkaline, so if you just put alkaline water in with these acids, then they're going to break them down much quicker before you go up and spray it on the tree. Now once it dries on the tree, that doesn't matter. But one thing you might want to do is take some vinegar, just regular household vinegar, put it in your gallon of water. I think I'm probably going to be using a tablespoon. You want to get that pH down to around 6, 5.5, something around in there. You can go get those little pH strips, is the best testing. Those other ones that you stick in the water don't work very well. pH strips work fairly well. If you get one that's for water and get it calibrated, it's probably the best. But for a general rule of thumb, which it works when it works, 1 tablespoon of vinegar for water will probably bring it down enough. Because what'll happen is you put out that fungicide, you mix it up, and then within a few minutes it might actually start deteriorating, and you won't get good control. So the first thing I'm going to be doing to help control it, after, well, that's going to be the first things I can't do it. First thing we did was, take off all the mummified fruit, clean up the many leaves you can clean up, mow around it. You know, you're trying to get that fungicide, the fungus out of there. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray with dormant oil. This could be at the time that the plum, peaches and plum leaves are falling. Put a you know, some dormant oil on it, and then I'm also going to put a liquid cop. And I'm going to do this twice. One the first of winter, one at the end of winter. The first of the winter is going to help control the bacteria, canker I have out there to keep it from getting into the, you know, into the scars that's in the leaves as they're falling. And then I'll do it again right before the bud starts breaking. You know, so you have to look at it. You see the buds are starting to break on the blooms in this early spring. Going to hit it again with the copper. This should help control the brown rot on that one. Just going to help it, not going to control it. Now, the main thing I'm going to be using for me is stuff called Infuse, and get it on. I got it in Amazon, and go according to the label. I think it shows 2 tablespoons for this one, but that can change, especially if you use a different kind. But Captan is not supposed to work that great from what I understand, but you do need to be putting, especially on when you're putting out your fungicide, make sure that you're, you know, putting the vinegar in there, or it just won't last very long, and it may be ineffective by the time you spray your tree. So sometimes that's why people don't get a good spray. And this may take every 2 to 3 weeks. You know, when you start spraying, and you're going to spray this soon as the petals fall off the tree on the bloom. So this is going to be right before it blooms, and this is going to be right after the petals fall off, or you know, where that kind of breaks, because a lot of times that brown rot sets early on, so you have to spray early. Once you see it, it's too late. This stuff does not. It prevents. It does not control. So we prevent the brown rot. So you can spray this every 2 or 3 weeks. Now, some people say, I don't want to do that. And if you're west of I-35 in Texas, not the middle of Texas, west, you might be able to get by without it. I'm in the 55, 60-inch rainfall belt. If I don't spray this, I don't have a chance. So I'm going to do everything I can to knock that brown rot down. And I still may lose some. I still, you know, but I know it's possible because they do grow them in East Texas. Now, the other thing that you can also get within your peaches and everything that I'll spray for, once I see them, and that's going to be the plum cucuрлio. Now, the plum cucuрлio, I don't think I'm going to draw on here, but they'll have a half moon shape slit. And probably can't see that. And then right in the middle there, they have a little dot. What the plum cucuрлio does, he cuts this slit out. This, you know, the slit's small, and then he'll put a dot, and that's where he lays the egg. So when they're really small, probably, you know, the size of, as soon as it happens, or sometimes it gets to about the size of a dime maybe, or smaller, you'll see them start doing these crescent moons. Once you see that, you got to spray, because if you don't spray, they're going. Now, if you don't see the dot, he didn't lay the egg. And a lot of times they'll start doing these first, and then they'll lay the eggs later. So if you can get them, if it's just this crescent moon, you can spray it, and the peach won't be damaged, or the plum. But, you know, once he lays that, if you see several of those dots and crescent moons, you have to pull that fruit off, discard it, because it's not just going to have worms in it. The other, now, what can you do to spray to kill it? Well, this works really, really good. The only problem with this insecticide is it deteriorates after the first year. And that's a big old bottle. I've had it 2 or 3 years. It's probably not very effective. And from what I've heard, people say the first year they spray it on new chemical, it worked good. The second year, it didn't work near as well. So I've got away from this because I don't use enough to justify buying this whole bottle. And then what do you do with, you know, half effective spray? Because you're not supposed to spray more than what the label says. But that's the law of the land. So I have went to the old standby of malathion, It's fairly cheap, and it's been around for a long time. It stinks to high heaven. It's the stuff that they usually spray when they're spraying mosquitoes. The thing on it is it does stink, and from what I've heard is that if you spray it in the evening, now the sunlight itself deteriorates just really quickly. So you'll spray it right about, whenever the sun's setting. You can go out there and spray your trees. It'll stay on the trees all night, probably kill the plum cucullio, and then the next morning the sun comes out. It kind of deactivates this stuff. Plus, from what I've heard, is this stuff does smell. I can smell it out of the bottle now, which ain't good. But the bees tend to avoid it. So the bees don't want to be in there anyway. One thing I will kind of caution you on, I know one guy one time said he got the bright idea of putting a lot of clover down underneath his trees, because he said, hey, that'd be nice for the bees. But then he had to go back and spray for the plum cucullio, and guess what? All the bees are trying to hang out around the bottom of the tree. So that caused problems. So the bottom of your tree, you really don't want anything growing. You want to mow it down. You don't want the pollinators coming in once those blooms have fallen off, the petals have fallen off the blooms. Anyway, there is, if you want to go organic and you got the time to spray, there is an organic alternative to spraying for the worms, and that's called Surround. It's a kaolin clay, and you can go to growingfruits.org, and I kind of tell you how to do that. I bought some at one time and we had the flood and I lost it, but it just takes several applications. Like you put on 3 or 4 applications right in a row, and then you got to keep putting that application on every time it rains. I get so much rain that would be pretty aggravating. Once I retire, I may try it again, because it is, it's just clay. So it's not these chemicals that you want to, so that will work on the plum cucullio. I don't know of anything that works well for brown rot that's organic, and I've talked to, or on the forums, they've discussed, and they don't know of any either. So there's not a good alternative other than this husbandry. And what you'll find, you'll tend to get by with not spraying on the brown rot for 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. But once it hits with a vengeance, and then you're stuck, because then it's there from now on. So if you say, I don't ever want to spray any, well, I'll say just prepare to get 3 or 4, crops off that peach tree, and then once the stuff, once the brown rot hits, you almost have to cut down the tree. Because, like I say, if you're in East Texas, we used to grow peaches, back where I lived. It was up close to Waco. Yeah, we lose some to brown rot, we lose some to the worms, but we would make some. You just have to cut around the worms, and we didn't spray anything on them. So it is possible, if you get a little bit less rainfall belt, you get a 30, 35 inch rainfall belt, then you may be able to grow some without it. But once you get in my rainfall belt, where we get a heavy dew every stinking morning out of the year, except for maybe 10, there's probably 10 to 15 days out of the year we don't get a dew on the ground. So if you got that much pressure, you're probably going to have to spray, or you just can't decide not to grow fruit. Anyway, the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to go out and take you out and kind of show you how to prune the tree to help cut down the brown rot also. Okay, this tree here, I'm going to go ahead and use it. It's got sort of a decent scaffolding. One thing you want to have is 3 different scaffoldings coming off. You can also go with maybe 4. And the first thing I was going to cut on this tree, I'm not going to do it today because it's the fall of the year. You really want to prune these things back in the spring of the year. So I'm just going to kind of show you what I'm going to be doing in the spring. What you want to do is you want to have a scaffolding, kind of like an upside down umbrella. No more than 4 main scaffolding branches. This one's got 3, and then it's also got this here that kind of off to the side. It may not maybe anyway. But the first thing you want to do, you want to keep this inside cleaned out. As one guy said, you want to be able to jump through this thing, if you was a really great athlete. So this thing right here, it's got to go. First off, it's a water sprout. It's going straight up. So you cut this one back at the branch right here. Okay. This is here. Again, it's growing inside. It's going to block the wind flow. So again, it's going to have to be cut. Now, I can't show everything. This one right here is growing underneath this main branch here, so it's kind of redundant. It's going to be shaded, so it's going to have to be cut. And all these little branches here, but that would be cut off. This one again is growing inside, it'd be cut. And this one would be cut. This one right here, another one will definitely be cut. Why? Because it's growing back inside the tree and blocking this and making where wind can't blow through it. So you definitely cut this one off. And you can also cut this one off because guess what? It's growing inside too. So yeah. If I was coming back around here, this one right here, I'd cut off because again, it's starting to shade out this other branch here. Now one thing I'm gonna have to figure out is which ones of these are alive, which ones died from the all we've had, but and like I say, these right here would be cut. This here would definitely be cut off because again, it's blocking there. You cut this in here off. And you might leave this one because there's not a lot of wind there. But this one right here would be definitely cut. This one I'd leave there probably, but I'd probably cut this here. Because you're trying to get it to kind of grow out flat and you come back up. Like this branch over here, I like it because it's kind of low and it grows out and comes back up. The wind can get to it. I don't like this one here, but I'd probably cut this one off just because this looks a little stronger, and then I clip this back off. This one right here is a definitely cut because it's way too vigorous and it's growing, again, it's growing back inside the tree. And this will be cut off because it's in the middle of the tree. So all this little stuff you're seeing here needs to be removed. And this will be cleaned out. So you kind of see once you got through, this is definitely cut, this and there's cut, and you start seeing all these water sprouts. You want that tree to kind of go out. You would deadhead it back some on the ends, but that's what you want. And one reason I got kind of in trouble this year is some of these were still left, and it blocked the wind from being able to flow through the tree. So the more stuff you have in it, the wetter it stays, and that's what's going to cause the fungus to grow, and that's what's called brown watchet fungus. So that's what's going to cause it to continue to grow. So again, this is kind of a short kind of introduction to pruning without me actually doing any of the pruning. This spring I do plan on, when I do prune, I'll kind of show you how. I'll probably remove up to 50–60% of the growth on this tree. So that does help it. I'm still going to be spraying because I got just so much pressure after this year, but I'm going to give it a try. But that is something that, it caught me and it bit me, and I should have done a better job of it. And all my trees are going to get pruned back pretty severely this year. I've got to have good airflow. And hopefully the videos have helped you, or this video has helped you. Again, I'm kind of apologize for everything being kind of jumbled up. It's kind of bad because I couldn't go back and redo, showing the brown rot on the trees because I'd already pulled all of them off. But anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and like I said, I'll try to do a better job of keeping things organized on the next video. Thanks for watching.